All right. All right. We should be live. Should be up. We should be going. Hello.
Awesome. Awesome. Welcome back to the Stream of Truth. I am Dr. Tassel Faith Shamebrook.
And I'm Sean Kelly.
And today we are doing episode 8. And we thought we would talk about our own awakening stories. And I feel like calling them adventures. I just love the word adventure.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that better. The word journey. I think when I was growing up, I had a certain association with that word with like just these weird hippies that I knew. And they just said journey constantly. Oh, that's not my journey, man. And stuff like that. And so that like for a long time, that really triggered me when people called it journey, but that's what it is though, you know?
Yeah, it's journey, path, story. I like the word adventure because to me, an adventure can at times be a little scary, uncertain, but very exciting and ultimately a really wonderful experience. And that somewhat encapsulates my awakening journey.
Yeah. Journey.
Yeah. And then we also would like to talk about how to recognize your own awakening. So some of the top signs to know that you are on this journey as well.
And I guess we should preface that by saying that we're not sure if we'll have time to get to that part today. So if we don't, we'll start tomorrow with that.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I shall start.
Yes. So I guess first of all, should we maybe just define what we think an awakening is? Like
that sounds like a good place to start.
Just a little bit before we describe it all.
Yeah. What the heck is it?
Yeah. So so what do you think? Like, how do you see that?
I think I'm still figuring that out, what exactly it is. I think it's an ongoing process of discovering what it is.
Yeah.
I think the word awake, the verb awake, is a good description. I think it can feel like I sort of just woke up a bit and I see things a bit differently. And I'm not even quite sure how I still fit into my previous life. And I'm a little confused and a little excited. It's like I opened up my eye. For me, what it felt like a blanket had been taken off of my consciousness.
Yeah.
And I just saw things differently, in some ways more clearly, in some ways more confusedly.
Yeah.
What about you? How would you describe?
I would say that it's the beginning of the awareness that you're here basically learning from these distortions that you're experiencing and starting to use that more consciously for your evolution. Like you're not you're more you could see more of the illusion, and so you participate a little bit less, and then so it's like an expansion of that. So yeah, I would say a spiritual awakening is when it can happen like sort of slowly, or it can happen abruptly, but it's when one begins to realize that what they're seeking is not without, and it is all within. And it's when they start to get a glimpse of that, that's usually when the awakening, I would say, is like truly begun.
Yeah, that's so interesting, because in your definition, my awakening has been fairly recent, I would say. Because well, maybe I'll just start talking about it. I first started feeling really different after December 21st, 2012, which was a big date. I think the Mayans had it as a big date, and there was a lot written about that date.
Mm-hmm.
And basically I went to bed the night before, and I woke up, and just as I previously said, it felt like something had been lifted off of my consciousness. It was the most dramatic shift I've felt in this incarnation in my consciousness, because a lot of my awakening process has been more gradual, I think, compared to yours, but that was not. That was a very clear, quite confusing change in my consciousness. And what it felt like was almost as if I had woken up in someone else's body.
Yeah.
It felt like this person I was married to, where I was living, how I would spend my time, what I previously thought was important. I had huge question marks around all of it. It just felt like, what am I doing? Whose life is this? This does not, it felt aligned yesterday. Today, it does not feel aligned. I didn't even know that word back then. It just felt like, I don't think this fits me anymore, what I'm doing. So to me, I felt like that was the beginning of my awakening, when I could just start to feel, I'm not really comfortable in the way that I was yesterday in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that was 2012, so nearly 9 years ago at this point, December 2012. It took me years to get to the point that you just said, of really maybe more understanding why I was here, and to see life in a different way, and to see situations as providing expansion for me.
Yeah.
I would say I only reached that point a few years ago, really.
Yeah.
Maybe 3 years ago. I'm not exactly sure.
Yep.
So there were, I would say, maybe 6 years where I was coming into that. And so it took me a very long time.
There's usually resistance. Like, so basically the awareness comes over us, and then there's all this resistance, usually because of fear. It can also be just laziness in some cases, but the fear of all the change and turmoil that you really following what you'd like to do is going to cause, right? So yes. There's lots of resistance. There's usually a period of that, and then that's why everyone always says that what's not in harmony will fall away. Eventually, we move out of that and then get to your next.
Yes, exactly what you said. I had enormous resistance to this path that my higher self, my soul, was clearly taking me on. And I wanted to remain on the path that my egoic mind had planned for my life.
Yeah.
So that's what my resistance was. I was not accepting the invitation to go on this awakening journey. I literally, it felt like, was resisting it, kicking and screaming the entire way. I was not interested in awakening.
Yeah.
I would say.
But you at the same time aren't able to really take your awareness away from it either, right? At least that was my experience.
I couldn't take my awareness away from it, and spirit was absolutely shutting down the people and events that the egoic mind wanted to grasp onto. It was all getting shut down left and right.
Yeah.
It was all disappearing. It was all falling away.
Yeah.
And I was still trying to grasp.
Yeah.
So I was very stubborn and very persistent in my egoic mind of not wanting to go on this journey. What kicked it more into high gear was just about 5 years ago, when I realized I really needed to initiate a divorce from my then husband. And so I eventually left. I left, and at that time I was only seeing my children every other week, so I was alone a lot.
Yeah.
And we had just moved as a family to Tennessee. I didn't know anyone, and what I was doing with my career was I was finishing up my PhD dissertation. So I was alone for large stretches of time. And I clearly remember the first time I sort of dropped the kids back off at my ex-husband's house, and I was going to be alone for really the first time in years. I was a full-time mom, and I recognize it now as my guidance, but I didn't know what it was then. I could just feel in my being this message of, this is really the beginning of a spiritual journey. That's what I was hearing.
Yep.
But I didn't even take it seriously. I just thought, oh, I'm so frazzled and out of sorts because I'm not with my kids for the first time ever, and my mind is making up things. But I don't think it was. Looking back, I think I was getting clear messaging that you're going on a spiritual journey right now, sister.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what happened. So it was these long stretches of time by myself, where just so much started to happen. So many feelings came up that had been, decades long suppressed. And that was a big part of my journey, was just really feeling everything that I had avoided feeling. And then other spiritual things started happening. And so the past 5 years have been the more intensive, I guess, part of that journey. But I would say it's really probably only the past couple of years, really, that I've made peace with the journey. Yeah. That I even could have gratitude towards the journey. I was so attached to what my egoic dreams were. And so much for me was just about, I wanted to be a full-time mom, and I wanted to be married, and I wanted to live out what I saw as sort of the American dream.
Yeah, the ideal life.
Yes.
Yeah.
And just sort of be like the families in the movies. That's
Mm-hmm.
what my ego wanted.
Yeah.
So it has taken me a long time to grieve, honestly, over, it sounds kind of dramatic, but it really was, it felt like a death of what I had.
Death of a dream.
Wanted. It felt like a death of a dream.
Yeah.
So it took me a very long time to grieve that dream, and to appreciate this new dream that I'm on, this new adventure that I think now I do largely appreciate and embrace. But it was a challenge to let go of what my human really, really wanted.
Yeah, totally. Did you experience a lot of strange happenings in the environment, and like sort of questioning your sanity and stuff like that as well?
Yes, there were. And there's still, I'll be honest, there's still a little part of me that still questions, and still, there is still a tiny question mark about all these experiences. And I think that question mark gets smaller and smaller over time. But the divorce custody situation that I was in was very, very, very challenging. And really, I was suffering enormously. I was suffering enormously emotionally. And Mother Mary came to me. And I found this really interesting because I did not have a great experience growing up going to Christian churches. So I really had, I would say, more of a negative association with anything related to Christianity, including Mother Mary and Jesus and Mary Magdalene. All my associations were unfortunately quite negative. So when she came to me, it did feel like, oh, I think this is kind of real. This is kind of happening, because I don't think my human mind would have brought in Mother Mary.
Yeah.
I would have maybe liked Buddha or something. So in two different moments of really great emotional distress over, a lot of it was just grieving the dream that I was talking about, and not being with my children, she came to me in sort of like a holographic way. Like I could see her
Oh,
in this
cool.
like hologram type way. And she was she was a bit shorter than me. And I think she took my hand. I think like she held my hand. And one of these moments was actually in Whole Foods, of all places.
Whole Foods.
Whole Foods, the grocery store.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah, she was walking around with me in Whole Foods. And then another time was in my garage in a house I had been renting. So those two experiences were really, and I don't remember that she was speaking to me. I could just feel her presence and her love. And I felt very comforted by her.
That's cool.
So those two experiences were really cool. And let's see. Another experience of my great grandmother came to me in a not quite in a holographic way, but sort of in a similar way. And she did speak to me. And one of the things that she communicated to me was that I was coming from a long line of my ancestors, and I was standing on their shoulders, really, through everything that they had been through.
Yep.
That they had stayed alive for me even to be born. And she communicated to me that I was going to be able to follow my dreams in this lifetime, and that everything that they had all been through was supporting that. And she handed me a golden baton, and it just felt very meaningful, that they'd each been carrying a baton through all their challenges of their lifetime. And I was really very blessed to be the one to be able to really follow through, I guess, on my awakening.
Can I share something?
Yeah.
The reference to when the being becomes conscious of their evolution of consciousness and the choice of polarization, that's when it is referred to as grasping the baton.
Oh, cool.
In the Law of One. Yeah.
Cool.
Raw channelings.
Wow.
Yeah. So I think it's a very significant gesture.
Wow.
Grasping the baton, you're now on the path of
path. Yes.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
That's how I would interpret that, and that just tie into Ra's description of that event. They always call it grasping the baton.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so those are a few unusual experiences. Yeah.
And I think that these tie-ins, like these ones that you weren't aware of that, I don't think, were you?
No, I'd never heard that.
These are just other little additional synchronicities to confirm our knowing that it was real, that the universe is infinitely mysterious in its expression.
Oh, I feel like crying. That is so beautiful.
So I think, like that whole thing, and then leading to now, it almost feels like there was a specific little message for you in that connection. I'm not sure.
Yes. Yeah. After I wasn't particularly close to this great grandmother who came through. I didn't spend much time with her when she was on the planet. But after that, I felt so close to her, and I have a picture of her in my bedroom now. And I draw a lot of strength from seeing her picture and just feeling her support. And then it feels like the support of that whole lineage.
Mm.
And it just helps me really want to do good and do what I came to do in honor of all of them as well.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So what else, where were we with the awakening? Did you, was there anything else that you wanted to add to it about your experience?
I guess, I don't know why I'm going to just say it one more time, because when I hear about other people's awakenings, it seems like, oh, they're just, I don't know, they're so happy and it's easy. And I just want to say my awakening, I really fought. I wasn't interested in my awakening.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if other people have that experience. And so much of what has helped me move out of that resistance is just a mindset shift of, oh my goodness, that path is not happening. That path has been shut down, sister. That's a no-go. That is not happening. We're over here now. And it's okay. This one's good too. It's okay.
Yeah.
And I think just letting go of a lot of the stories and identities that I thought I had to fulfill. And a big one for me was, oh, I wanted to be a full-time mom. And I guess in a way, letting go of some of the pressure of some of those stories, that it's okay that I'm not a full-time mom. It's okay that I'm doing different things. So a lot of it has been just letting go of some of my programming, my individual programming, the societal programming, mm-hmm. and just embracing whatever is happening. So yeah. I'll just say that to me is one of the biggest lessons, is just accepting, surrendering, and finding gratitude for whatever is happening, and not grasping onto what I maybe wanted to happen in the past. Mm-hmm. That has been a real game changer for me.
Yeah. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing all that. There's some of that I don't know that you've mentioned. Some of it sounded new to me. And mine was, I guess I'll just jump into mine then. Yeah. Mine was very abrupt and sort of ridiculous. So my younger years, I didn't have a great relationship with religion. I thought church was a bit weird, and no one would answer my questions about things about Jesus and things. I think they just didn't know the answer, so they just sort of would direct me off, and whatever. And so that would happen. Like, I went to Sunday school, I think, and for a little while, and it's not that I had a bad relationship with religion necessarily, but no one would ever help me understand it really. So I didn't really talk to any of the priests or any of the people there about it. It just was family members who really weren't super into it anyways, right? And then I met a friend when I was around, I don't know, probably 8 or something. And he was from Iran, and he helped me understand a little bit about his religion, and he started to explain some of the various atrocities that various religious beliefs had caused. So I developed a sort of anti-religion orientation. I didn't necessarily, I was almost atheist, is how I sort of describe it. Like I thought there's a slight chance that there is a being doing all this, like an infinite or a creator. There's a slight chance of that, but I can't see it. That's sort of how I was oriented.
Yeah.
And then I did all like the normal stuff that people do as they go about their growth as humans. They they do their school stuff and do whatever. I did all the things that I sort of just thought were expected of me, and I genuinely thought would lead to happiness. And so I went to college, and then I started working in IT. But I always wanted to do something more, and I never knew what that possibly really looked like. So I started studying things, business related, etc., thinking I wanted to start a business. Because I had this like sort of deadness about what I was doing. I started to develop this after 2012, same time with you, although I had no concept of any of this. After the fact, looking back, that's when it happened.
Yes.
2012, that was when I noticed I have another voice in my head that is talking negative stories and reinforcing negative beliefs.
Yes.
And began to realize I could just choose not to really engage with it.
Yeah.
Through like mindfulness practices and meditation and stuff. I noticed that I didn't have to use that voice's reactivity to situations. I was able to find it like a space between the thing that happens and the response to make that more conscious decision. So I had already started awakening there. But it was sort of a gradual thing, because I was resisting it, I think, a lot in my framing of reality.
Yeah.
So it was very slow progress, like almost none, right? If you were to gauge it, I guess. But then on October 13th, 2019, I had sort of decided that, I think it's probably best for everyone else if I'm not here anymore. So, I had a sort of, I guess, breakdown in my backyard. And I had all of this energy just explode through my body, from the base of my spine up through into my crown chakra. It felt like my head exploded, but it felt really good though. But also uncomfortable, like uncomfortably good constantly, is sort of how it felt. So it was almost a problem. I wasn't able to really walk, so I had to like crawl into the house sort of and get onto the couch. And then I just laid there for like 20 minutes while I had this sort of shakiness and whatever going on. And then after that, though, right after that, as soon as that was all done, and I could like more focus on what was going on instead of all these physical, weird, energetic sensations I was getting.
Yeah.
And I was getting flashes of imagery as well, like being able to see as a particle, like, like being a particle in a thing I'm looking at, like a cup or something. I started to have flashes of like being the particle inside of the, right? Or like the photon, just weird stuff, really weird stuff was like flashing. And then I basically sort of rode the wave of that and came out of that in this, what sounds like the state that Jesus was in after his full awakening, where he talks as source.
Yeah.
So whenever he's teaching, I don't know if he spoke as Jesus more when he was like off duty. I don't know how he was interacting with that, but how he would talk about how he's within you, and these types of things. I would say those types of things to people, sort of.
Wow.
And I would say them. I would suggest that there's no separation when like something simple was suggested in the material world or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I also...
How was this received by people around you?
Oh, people probably thought I was nuts, but I didn't even notice.
Right.
I didn't even notice. I was oblivious to any of that. I just was marveling at stuff, and I barely even remember it because of the way it was I don't know. It's almost like remembering, and it just felt like an elongated experience of bliss, and it lasted about 7 days,
Yeah.
something like that. And then I woke up in the morning and it was just gone. And so I think the state itself, when that happens with people, because it's a fairly common to have that type of, I don't know if you could call it like satori or bliss state, persist for a couple days or a week or something like that, and then go away. I think that's sort of like the breadcrumbs of like, this is possible, right? I think it's to show the human, show the personality that it's possible to be at peace with all that is.
Yes.
It's possible to be in harmony with everything.
Yeah.
Let's show you. Because sometimes it becomes that desperate. And so in the case of something like suicide or whatever, or people contemplating these various things, that can be one of the triggers. It often is the trigger for that type of revelation. And same with Eckhart Tolle, same thing. I cannot live with myself.
Yeah.
And that's what made him notice that he was observing his egoic thought.
Yeah.
So, and he just woke up from sort of having that.
Yep.
So that happened, and I'm still learning about this, but I experienced what I think was a walk-in experience, or some people could call it a soul swap, or it could be a form of merging. I think merging is a more accurate. I think it's like a merging of an additional soul's consciousness sort of coming in. I'm not sure that the original goes away. There's a few people that have different thoughts, and I'm not sure where I land and what it feels most resonant. I think it depends. It could be just that it could go either way, depending on that plan. So I think anyway. So I suddenly was, like you had said, notice that you're not in harmony with the environment. But I had this sort of almost detachment from all outcome. And so my environment dismantled very quickly. Like everything happened very fast, because I think that the originating walk-in is sixth density, and so I think it brought that sort of inbuilt wisdom that can be accessed once the veil's pierced. And once the person like sort of trusts in their inner wisdom, everything just starts to fall apart really quick. So that's why they're so effective at coming in and doing a particular piece of work. And Ra gives the example of Abraham Lincoln. I'm not comparing myself to that, but Ra gives that example, and says that Abraham didn't feel like he could complete the mission, and that's basically what Sean was sort of expressing, right? I don't know if I can be here, right? Abraham didn't feel like he could. Did I say Abraham Hicks? I meant Lincoln.
Yeah, you didn't say Abraham Hicks.
Okay, I got confused there for a second. Yeah. He didn't feel that he could do the mission, like do all the things he could see he needed to do, and so he had a walk-in experience from a fourth density wanderer, according to Ra. So, and I don't find Ra to have ever been wrong or lied about anything. So, so I started to be pretty detached and a lot more self-accepting, and not really caring what people were saying about me to me, and this caused a lot of problems. Also, I developed all this like sort of protective sort of behaviors or thought patterns and things like that. I sort of developed a sort of spiritual ego as well during that time, trying to understand what I was, because like you, right after the Kundalini awakening, I ended up going up into the bath, and I was sitting in the bath. It was like a big jacuzzi bath we had at the house at that time. And I remember like just being just informed that I'm going to be doing what I'm doing now, which is talking about all of this stuff. And I couldn't even fathom it at the time because I didn't even know anything about it. So, yeah, so I started having all of that. And so I just started to know that I was going to do that, but, you know, I was trying to push things, and sometimes I'd try to push things too quickly and I'd cause all this problems.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I was doing a lot of that. I'd resist by being like pushy or impatient.
Yeah.
About how things are falling into place and how things are shifting.
Yes.
Like, because I knew they were shifting. I knew that things are happening.
Yep.
But I would get very frustrated about all that and fight it. And so I went through a whole big, long dark night of the soul, I guess.
I wanted, if you don't mind, I just wanted to say that I think you had this really amazing experience of this walk-in experience. And I think the awakening process can feel like a death, literally a death rebirth process. So although I didn't have a walk-in experience, it did feel like the old Tassel was not there anymore.
In biblical terms, this is what is referred to as the resurrection of Christ.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's why at times it can feel so heart-wrenching and painful, because we really are being asked for that person in a way, and all of the dreams and a lot of the relationships to fall away, to die.
Yeah, a lot of stuff just falls away, and some of it comes back later.
Yeah, absolutely.
It all just, it all just works out.
But I think that is why it is an intense journey, because it is a death rebirth journey.
Absolutely.
And I'd also say there's this, it felt like, for me at least, there's this liminal period of the death, but the rebirth hasn't totally taken off yet. And there's this almost black hole period of, I don't know what is going on. I don't know who I am. Everyone has fallen away, but nothing has come in. And that liminal space, I think, is very challenging. And I hope it's something that we can help other people through, because that was probably the most bewildering part of the journey for me.
Yeah. In magical practice, we call that the abyss. It's the chasm between the old identity and the association with all the material, and then coming into the awareness of the spiritual, and piercing the veil.
Yes. Yeah. It's really, can be very, I would say, like, disturbing and frightening, particularly if you haven't heard of it from someone else, and maybe you don't even know who to talk to about it.
That's the challenge a lot of the time. And that's, I think, a lot of the reason we do what we're doing, right, is just to help people, I guess, see other people that have gone through very similar things. And like people that are saying, it does get better if it's new. I know that also, I should say, some Ascension Symptoms. Did you have any of those, like physical symptoms when you went through your stuff? Or did you not experience so much that way?
I had like tingly sensations in my crown chakra at times.
Yeah.
Some dizziness at times. But I think you've had a lot more of that than I have. I get spasms of energy all the time now. Like, that's Wild.
Sometimes I shake a little or whatever.
Yeah. I think I've seen some of that in person. Yeah. Wild.
And sometimes I'll bounce my legs a lot if I'm getting really, usually if I have a sort of passion involved in whatever's happening.
Yeah.
Or if I go into a flow state and I then my legs start to jumble around usually.
Yeah. I wanted to just quickly say about the previous topic that I think one of the benefits of our relationship is we've been able to share so much of this awakening journey and also feel like we're not crazy.
Yeah. It's helpful because you feel crazy, and some people call you crazy, and it's unfortunate, but it's all part of the building of trust in yourself and your inner knowing as well, right? So you can be grateful even 100%. For not trusting in it,
Yes.
The whole thing is to forgive yourself for all the past stuff. Yes. And we had talked about, I started to learn of that technique that we talked about. Maybe we'll do more on this, but alchemizing the past moments using positive energy.
Yes.
And transmuting them from a negative experience, which forms negative belief structures, into a positive experience. Yes. So you don't even have to do like the shadow work so much, as much. You don't have to go right into all that emotion stuff.
Yes. Maybe that could be a whole show in and of it.
Yeah, that's a probably a deeper topic, but
yeah. And we could maybe even, if people are on live or recorded, like we could possibly like go through a practice that people watching.
Yeah. I noticed Chad had a question.
Oh, awesome.
Are you satisfied with the rate of awakening, or do you feel like we're all living in an uncomfortable sort of limbo? And what do you think the destination is? The rate of awakening, like of society or of ourselves? So I think for me, mine was so fast that like I don't even know anyone that had one like me, other than maybe Eckhart. Like,
yeah, I agree.
And it doesn't mean that I'm like better at it. Or any weird anything like that. It's just the way that mine has went. And one day I'm sure I'll find other people that have went through it. I don't think it's that unique, but I'm sure people do have spontaneous Kundalini awakenings the way that I did. And I'm curious around their experiences and the walk-in concept as well. And because the spontaneous Kundalini awakening is a result of the person not seeking, not doing their mission, not seeing the purposes and stuff, right? Okay. To like a very deep degree, a dark place. Yeah. So that the Kundalini, it has to do something. If they're meant to awaken in that lifetime.
Yeah.
If not, then they may just, but yeah. Anyways, satisfied with the rate. What do you think? How would you say?
I think it's such a great question. And I would say that my path has been more slow and steady. And sometimes I think I can feel a little like, oh, I wish it were a little quicker. But the guidance that I get in about that is that there were a lot of human things I wanted to do in this incarnation too. And that was to also really be a mother. And so right now I do have quite a bit of mothering. So I think I'm at peace with, there were a lot of human things I wanted to do as well as this awakening journey.
Yeah.
It was like I wanted both of those things in this lifetime. And then the last part of Chad's question, what is this leading to? Where are we going with all this? It's a great question.
Yeah.
What do you think?
So yeah, that's a deep question. The destination. So I mean, we could get basic. The destination is unity with source, or returning to basically recognizing the self as creator, and then embodying the creator. Once that is accomplished, the person's going to move into the next density of consciousness, and in this case, the Earth's ready to support fourth density life. We have third density bodies, but we can hold fourth density frequency and fifth density frequency. So, and I've heard people can go higher than that, which I wouldn't be surprised. I'm not sure if I have or not, or whatever. But I think that as we expand that and the frequencies raise, it increases sort of the energy, the vibratory rate of the Earth. So it's like an exponential, like a snowball effect almost, right?
Yeah.
It's actually called you call it I don't know if they'd call it a law, but maybe a rule of squares. A lot. No, it would be the law of squares in metaphysics, as far as spiritual gravity goes. There becomes a gravity, a pulling within everyone on the planet to go within, and it builds the gravity well through all of the others who are already seeking and purifying. So they're all cleansing all the karma of the earth as well, right? So it's lightening and lightening and lightening, and so anybody that's like just holding onto the dark is going to have like a rough go. So it over a period of probably 100 years, maybe 150, we're going to see a shift into like less pathology and more like narrative therapy and stuff and that type of thing. And then, you know, the people will understand that we are all one mind expressing itself uniquely.
Yes.
In this place, and we'll understand that this place is an illusion, but it's real. It's a real illusion, and it's projected by our you know, co-mind with the whole universe. We'll start to know that as a society, and then we'll likely join the Confederation of Planets in service to the one infinite creator, most likely. That's probably where that's going in fourth density. I doubt they'll take us in third. I don't think we'll reach the right amount of harmony. But I'd think that would be cool if they did. It'd be interesting. I think actually Sirius might be one of the only third density groups that are a part of it, as far as I'm aware. I know this is a bit weird, but
no, that was an amazing answer to the question. I love it.
That's where I see this going. And I don't have any question around how or whether or not that will occur. The only question I have is when. The timeline and the law of squares, as far as each or you could call it a doubling, sort of. Mm-hmm. It's a little bit more than doubling because it's an exponential, but so it could go in a moment. There could be a brief, like a major event happens, and just in almost a moment, the entire populace basically just awakens. You know, that could happen. So
wow, I hope that happens.
It would be chaos if that happened. And
forgive me, I have to
you have to go now. Yeah. Okay. I hope that answers your question, chat. Yes, thank you for that. Okay, awesome. Thank you guys for watching. Appreciate you very much. Tomorrow we're going to go into the signs. So we'll do the signs tomorrow.
Signs tomorrow. Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. So much love to everyone.